All right. YouTube is deleting comments with a couple of phrases that insult China's Communist Party. Now,
Yeah.
this hopefully seems like it was sort of not as big of a deal as it initially seemed to be, but let's walk through the timeline here. So this was posted by Ash River over on the forum, and curiously, the earliest source we were able to find, maybe you guys can correct us if we're wrong here, but
I'm sure there's one before it, but
maybe there's
yeah.
one before, but Palmer Luckey was one of the earliest people talking about this in a tweet from May 25th that has 30,000 likes just about. YouTube has deleted every comment I ever made about the Wumao, the Wumao, an internet propaganda division of the Chinese Communist Party. Who at Google decided to censor American comments on American videos hosted in America by an American platform that is already banned in China anyway? This appears to be a new global policy at YouTube, not directed at me specifically. Try saying anything negative, and then he posts the Chinese characters, or even mentioning it at all. Your comment will last about 30 seconds and get deleted without warning or notice. Interesting.
Pretty crazy. So yeah, okay. I found at least one source from before it, but most sources are from after it.
So, yeah, do you want to run us through this one? What went down here?
I don't necessarily know. There's been an update from YouTube.
Yep.
That they said it is confirmed. They confirmed that it is happening, and they are working on a fix.
It seems like
why
the kind of
it's
thing
happening.
That wouldn't be hard to fix, right? Like you run a video platform. How hard do you think it would be to fix?
Well, the amount of stuff that's ran by AI on
that's fair.
YouTube is pretty extensive. So I can't claim to know like how this came to be. I think it's really interesting. I don't know enough about this at all. I don't think YouTube has directly. Sorry, one sec. I don't think YouTube has directly addressed like how it came to be at all. Maybe they did. If I missed that, I'm sorry. But this could be a really interesting story as we see it develop, because there's updates as of like fairly recently. If an outside source was able to train an AI.
Okay, so there's a couple things here. So first of all, let's talk through why this phrase might be banned in the first place. It translates to communist bandit or 50 cent party, not that 50 cent, like. And what's weird is that the Romanized pinyin and English language translations are not affected. So communist bandit was a term used by nationalist forces during the Chinese Civil War, and Wumao or 50 cent party is a derogatory slang for internet users who are paid to direct online discussion away from criticizing the Chinese Communist Party. So basically shills, and they're called so because they're paid 50 Chinese cents per post. Curiously, what was happening was even if the phrases were used positively, they were being scrubbed, suggesting that YouTube's spam and offensive text filters may have had the phrases added to them, although by whom and whether accidentally or for what purpose is not currently known. YouTube is, as was pointed out in Palmer's tweets, completely blocked in China, so the censorship is just a little bit confusing. YouTube has confirmed in an update that this is an error in their enforcement systems, and they're working to fix it as quickly as possible, but there, as far as we know, have been no further details given as to what the error is or how it crept in the first place.
That specifically is the part I am so interested in.
So
how did that happen?
JS Wiseton in the YouTube chat says, well, why does YouTube have that infrastructure in place anyway? Why is YouTube helping a horrible communist nation censor its citizens? Well, that's probably not what they're doing. And they have comment moderation tools in place because users like you and YouTubers like me want them. I do want a degree of moderation in my YouTube comments. And you could say, well, oh, you're anti-free speech, but that's not actually what free speech is. It's part of, my right. It's part of my rights to dictate on my video what is or is not permitted. And I'm allowed to have things like banned words because that's not what free speech is. Free speech is the right to speak freely and criticize the government, not the right to say whatever you want on somebody else's YouTube video. It's not the same thing. And so they have tools for moderation. Just the question is, how exactly would this phrase have ended up there? And seeing some of the things that are being done with AI now. Luke, you see that project where NVIDIA recreated Pac-Man? Oh yeah, we talked about it on WAN Show, right? Did we?
NVIDIA recreated Pac-Man. No, I don't think we did.
Oh, okay, cool. So NVIDIA had an AI just watch, I think it was like 50,000 hours of Pac-Man being played. And then it recreated the game just by learning the rules from watching someone play, which is pretty amazing. And so
that's actually pretty nuts.
If you had a chat AI, for example, or if Google had an AI that crawled other platforms, because, especially moderating, I think it's fair to say that most Google headquarters employees, English would be their first language. And so moderating other languages would be a real challenge. And that's something that you have to find a solution for. So it's not entirely outlandish to say that it's possible that one of Google's solutions might be to create an AI that monitors chats and comments on websites where people speak these languages natively and look for phrases or words that seem to cause consternation among the community. That's not entirely unrealistic. I'm not saying that's how they're doing it. I don't know how they're doing it, but that would be a way for that to realistically end up in an offensive words filter. Does that seem reasonably credible, Luke?
Yeah, it would probably mostly use their own platforms, but yeah. But it does definitely seem credible.
But they could use other platforms.
And they could.
And they could have actually ended up with that in their offensive words filter, even on their own platform. Because the thing about, the Chinese Communist Party is even within China, a lot of people think that, Chinese people are somehow, equated, like the views of the Chinese Communist Party somehow align perfectly with the people in China. There's over 1 billion people in China. Not all of them agree with what the Chinese Communist Party does. So there's a lot of dissent that gets created in China over things like the Hong Kong protests, or over things like these 50 cent party shills that are trying to, steer online discourse in ways that are more favorable to the CCP. So it's not entirely unrealistic to think that in Chinese language comments on YouTube videos, and, let's be realistic, there's lots of people in China watching YouTube. Lots. They don't show up in my, demographic information in my analytics dashboard because they're all on VPNs, but they're watching. I can tell because I get emails and like forum private messages and stuff like, hey, I got one today. Someone was like, hey, I was browsing Taobao, as I'm apt to do because I'm Chinese and live in China, and I saw your face on there. Just thought you'd like to know. These guys are using this picture of you to like sell this product. It happens all the time. So we have to go and like either try and get it taken down or whatever. I remember we went through a really funny thing with GPD. Do you know those guys?
I think so.
They make like handheld gaming PCs, like x86 gaming PCs. Anyway, super nice guys from my dealings with them, but we went through a bit of a thing with them where they used a ton of imagery of me on their product page in a way that made it seem like I was somehow associated with the product, and they had like a bunch of quotes, almost like they were taken out of context, almost like I was like, I helped develop it or something. I was like, hey, you guys need to not do that. That's actually not okay, and you can't. You need to just take your own product photos and stuff without my face in them. And they were fine. They were chill about it. We actually have a review coming for their new product, the GPD Win Max, very soon. The thing is freaking cool. It's really cool. It's got Thunderbolt. It's like this big. It's got a quad-core 8-thread CPU in it that turbos over 3 gigahertz in moderate loads. Like, it's unbelievable. Anyway, we run into that a lot. So I'm just saying that I'm not letting YouTube off the hook, but I'm also not necessarily going to go full tinfoil hat. They're, clearly suppressing, Chinese dissent here.
Yeah. To me, it seems like either just an overambitious auto moderator or potentially a little bit of outside steering of an overambitious auto moderator. But I kind of doubt it was manually done.